Hi friends, Rosanne Callens here. I want to start with something today that might stop you for a moment. Did you know that nearly 70% of high-achieving professionals report feeling disconnected from who they are, even when their life looks very successful from the outside? So, if you've been feeling restless, ungrounded, or like something is missing, but you can't quite name it, you're not broken. You don't need a reset. And you just need to remember who you are. So, if this is you, today's episode is for you. So, I wanted to get started by talking about a client, right? I think that it's so helpful when we talk about, things in our lives. Our brain loves to hear stories, and that's what we really connect with and remember. And so, I want to share a client story who I'll call this client Sarah, because I think a lot of people will hear themselves in her story. She wasn't in crisis and she wasn't unhappy in an obvious way. She was functioning, she was capable, she was well respected, and her life looked fine. But she kept saying things like, I don't know what I want next. I feel like I should be grateful. Or I don't know why I feel restless when nothing is technically wrong. Has that ever happened to you? Well, what she was really saying was this: I've been living in response mode for so long that I've lost touch with my own internal compass. Sarah's days were filled with doing what needed to be done, work, family, responsibilities. And when she finally had quiet moments, instead of peace, she just felt blank. And that empty blankness scared her more than the stress ever had. And she told me, I keep thinking I need to be going in a new direction or a new goal, but none of it feels right. And that's when we realized what the truth was. She didn't need rest. She didn't need a reset. She just needed to remember who she was, who she is. And once we slowed down and we asked some questions like, when do you feel most like yourself? And what do you want to do when no one needs anything from you? A lot of emotions came up. And not because something was wrong, but because something had been missing. And so I want to just pause right there and ask you, when do you feel most like yourself? And for many of us, we actually don't know how to answer that question. One thing I can say, and I say this to a lot of my career coaching clients too, is think about some times where, like let's say you're driving home and you just feel full of energy. And then I say, okay, what was it that you were what were you doing in that moment or right before that moment to get you that energy, right? What was that one triggering thing that just made your gas tank feel full? For me, I really love to go to like crafting classes or classes where we make something or classes where someone is instructing something and I get to just lock into doing something so creative and fun because I just don't naturally do that in my day to day. And I always drive away from those feeling just like everything is possible. And so, when do you feel most like yourself? For me, I have lived a version of Sarah's life myself. There was a long stretch in my life where my identity was wrapped around just being useful, right? I was a mom, I was a professional, um, I was helping people. And I really liked that. I loved having that label of being there and helping everyone. But underneath it all, I felt like I was just floating through my life. So Sarah described it as a blank feeling, like there's just nothing on her slate. She couldn't see anything. For me, my picture is of someone floating. And I really wanted to talk about this today because it's not that, we're unhappy or it's not that we're falling apart. But if you asked me at that moment in my life, hey, Rosanne, who are you outside of your roles? I don't know if I could have answered that clearly. In fact, there's no way I could have. I would have been stopped in my tracks. I just kept moving from responsibility to responsibility without ever stopping to ask, who am I when no one needs me right now? And that kind of disconnection is really quiet. It happens really, really softly. You don't feel it. You don't crash. You just start to drift. So, identity comes before goals. If you skip your identity, goals can feel heavy or hollow. And so I don't want you to feel that you have to start over. I just want you to come back to yourself. So let's just take a minute here. I always want to have a takeaway for you. I want you to ask yourself, when do I most feel like myself? Okay. What am I doing? Where am I? Uh, where am I feeling where, wow, this is the real Rosanne, or this is the real you? What parts of me have been on mute? I'll say that again. What parts of me have been on mute? And what do I already know, but I keep overriding? So, what is it that you know and you know it's happening and you just keep overriding it? And my best analogy for this is, when our computers prompt us and they say, hey, your computer needs an upgrade to this next version. And then you can click remind me tomorrow, remind me in 48 hours, or install it now, right? So, what is it that you know, but you keep overriding and you keep saying, oh, I'm going to wait to deal with that? Okay. What do you already know? Because you know what? We do know. We do know what we need more of if we take the time to think about it and to, most importantly, to feel it. No fixing, just noticing. So, what I would like for you to do is to write this down in the notes section of your phone or on a piece of paper. But I want you to write down 3 things that where you feel most like yourself. Okay. And then I want you to write what parts of you have been on mute. What parts are you not acknowledging of who you really are? And what do you already know, but you keep overriding? And I'll just, say another story too is that I really do love to laugh and I love to be silly and I really love having fun. And I know when I start to get ultra serious, just all the time, I'm just very serious and I'm going from responsibility to responsibility. And it's like serious Roseanne. I know right there, I am not taking a moment to breathe because when I'm around, people who make me laugh or, like my kids send me a text message and I just feel so great. It's like, that's the real you right there. So I want you to help just slowly to uncover this. Okay. And I want this to be a very short episode today. It doesn't need to be long because I want to give you some time to actually think about it. If you're listening to this while you're walking or driving to work and this ends, before jumping into something else, just take 2 or 3 minutes to really think about some of the questions I posed. So, if this resonated with you, I would love for you to like, follow, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you want support, of course, with reconnecting with who you are, and if you want how to move forward, you can always book a complimentary call with me, or I have monthly workshops. Everything is linked in the show notes on my website. I even made a note to write this down on my piece of paper, like, Roseanne, don't forget to say that because I want to build an amazing, beautiful community built with people who are here and they love taking care of everyone else. But my role, I feel, is to help remind you to take the time to take care of you. And that's today's session. So thanks for joining the podcast today. And I hope you have a magical day.